thing is to check the NGOs like Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International. They will not go into the actual source of the problem, which is the United States of America. So yeah, you can then talk to prisoners or to opposition groups or give them a voice. But I think it's more importantly for us from the West, again, to before we take sides with opposition groups, to realize what the game is that they are playing. And they are playing a divide and rule game.
MediaMondo.
Focus on my experience with Venezuela. I'm not an expert in Latin America or Venezuela, but I still think that I have enough experience to share with you today. My specialization is actually the Dutch occupation of Indonesia. So I wrote also 2 books about that. So if you want to know more about that, please ask me. You already mentioned it. My website is MediaMondo. It's a new initiative that I launched last year. We do interviews, which I also subtitle with Dutch and English. I also added many languages, so you can see in automatic translation in Chinese, Russian, and Arabic. So I also think that the Chavistas, so the followers of the political line of Hugo Chavez and now Maduro, deserve more attention, also in the Netherlands, also in our discussions. Because that is usually not included. If you look the news here, it's always the opposition that you hear. So on our website you can also select Venezuela, and then you will see, among others, a piece by Anna. Anna is sitting over there. We were both in Caracas in last September. And a few things that I want to share about that. It was an invitation. It was an international congress against neo-fascism and similar expressions. And it was meant as a new movement. And to me, I mean, the Bandung conference gets a lot of attention because of the importance, the historical importance that it has. But I think this also deserves attention as a new initiative coming from Venezuela, because it's also bringing together a lot of leftist organizations, not only from Latin America, but throughout the world. You see people from everywhere, also from the countries in Latin America, for example, Argentina, that is not leftist right now with the government, but there are luckily also a lot of leftist movements and people who were present. What caught me is that, so here in the West, in the colonial core, you see that we're struggling with diversity, inclusivity, and then you're there, and white people are the minority, as it should be. And so it's a natural diversity. It's just, this is the world. So it's international, it was very diverse, and it united leftist, socialist, communist, progressive forces. It's also very positive, a very positive vibe. So there were a lot of singing, a lot of dancing. There was a lot of very positive moods that you feel like something is being built here. And it's not only saying in a negative mood like this is not going well, this is not good, and this is bad, but also it's building up something new. It has a perspective for the future. And in a way, it's also radical. I mean, the speeches, these were government officials that were speaking, but they talk like you and me. They talk like they're very anti-colonial, also anti-racist, importantly, and anti-fascist. That was the name of the conference. And I'm wearing also the fabric that we got. They prioritize the Free Palestine movement. It's almost in all the speeches, and you see the flag. It's the priority, and it's referenced many times. I want to make some general statements, maybe also as for a discussion later on, about the division. I think that oftentimes we maybe not acknowledge enough how enormous the impact of the division that the empire created. Not just here, I mean, yes, I see that our organizations and movements are oftentimes also very much divided. I understood that I was actually only invited this week because somebody, the initial speaker, did not want to be in the same panel with Sandy Hira. This happens here, but can you imagine if your country is under attack, like Venezuela? I think people then, we start to discuss, we talk about, is President Maduro, is he actually authoritarian or not? Is he democratic or not? But I think that should not be our focus. I think first we should acknowledge that also in these countries, the division naturally is immense because of the active war that is being fought by the United States, by Europe, by the EU. I think that our support of separatist movements or local opposition groups can be a tool for regime change. And I think we also need to think about that. Because maybe we think that, we always have to side with the smallest group or with the weakest group of those who are not in power or with those who are opposing their government because they say our government is mistreating us. But if you see the bigger struggle, you can actually support the imperial initiative, to create the division and to worsen the division. So you have to be very careful in that sense when you decide to side with a group or with an opposition group. Because I think in Venezuela it's kind of easy because the largest opposition that we see is very right-wing, is very openly pro-America. But imagine, also you have in Venezuela a communist party that broke ties with Maduro. Then what do? Are we going to side with the Communist Party of Venezuela? Or, these are the questions. I also see a difference between, for example, the anti-imperialist movement in the West. So this is the movement that is very outspoken against US imperialism, with a focus on contemporary geopolitics. And then we have also movements that will identify rather as decolonial or anti-colonial, be critical of centuries of European colonialism, which more or less focus on the past and how the past is still, influencing our lives of today. And of course, anti-racism groups, creating awareness of how racist theories indoctrinated our minds with a focus on decolonizing the mind. I think there is a risk when these different branches remain disconnected, what I see that happens sometimes. So in the Western anti-imperialist groups, I think they're good in recognizing current divide and rule attempts. Okay. But, however critical they are of US imperialism, they still produce colonial views. For example, not acknowledging the United States as a colony, a European occupation of other people's land that never ceased to exist, or not including racism in their analysis. And unwittingly, anti-colonial, decolonial movements sometimes can promote the US imperialist agenda of divide and rule by supporting Western-backed opposition groups or separatist movements. So then the question is, I think this is where we struggle with, how to take a position. Because all you know here, and if you read something about Maduro, he's painted very negatively. People here will hesitate perhaps to support his government. So why do I support the Bolivarian revolution? Yeah, one way, what you can do maybe as an advice is you can first check the Western media on certain. If you want to know something about Venezuela, okay, check it out. What do they actually write? Because oftentimes the opposite is true, right? Or it means that a person or a country or a conflict is of importance to Washington and to the EU. So it means that therefore you have to be careful. I'll give you an example of the Dutch national broadcaster NOS, who invited in a news show González, the last opposition leader of the elections in July, and then they asked him, what can the Dutch government do for you? And he answers, recognize that the Venezuelans chose me as their president. So then you already know something. You know that, okay, this is the side that the imperialist forces are taking. Another thing is to check the NGOs like Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, because I see them as the US imperialist soft power tools to back up media campaigns and provide the moral justification for regime changes. If you check on Venezuela, it's very clear that Maduro is really a bad man. Alarming persecution of critical and dissident voices intensifies, and it goes on and goes on. I want to close my presentation with some tips on alternative media sources that you can check yourself. Venezuela Analysis is a very important media source. If you haven't heard from them, please check them out. They're also on social media. So you can also see that there are actually people from Venezuela who are involved in that website. And yes, of course, they're not neutral either. They're pro what the government does, but they're not from the government. They're independent. They also have podcasts. You can get a deeper understanding of the issues that are at stake. Of course, Telesur English. You also have Orinoco Tribune. It's also in English. And then Kawasun News. Of course, MediaMondo. I want to ask you to read, if you have time later, the article of Beatriz Carnevali. She is a Chavista living in the Netherlands. So Anna already mentioned her. She's with us today. She's actually from Bolivia originally, but she's also Chavista. And also importantly, every third Saturday of the month, they have a demonstration at the Dam Square where they, from the hands of Venezuela movement. And that's also where you can meet Beatriz or Anna or other people from that group. So every third Saturday of the month. Oh, I have more, but you're still on the... Oh. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Sam, you hear that? Organizing the mind. Because you also wrote several posts about Venezuela, also videos. Websites, which like Mini Press News, of course, you know the website perhaps. They also have quite interesting pieces of Alan MacLeod. He wrote quite a few interesting articles also on Maduro, on Venezuela. The Grey Zone, of course. And then some books. I brought 2 books with me, so you can check yourself maybe afterwards. This is actually download for free, so if you want the link, you can read yourself. It's an essay in English, which explains everything that's happened in the last 10 years. So we are going to send the slides after, so you don't have to make screenshots of every slide. But thank you, Marjolein. You want to share something in conclusion? I see you have a last slide. Yeah, we can keep that maybe for the discussion. Okay. All right. Questions? Again, we have room for 2 questions.
Hi, I'd like a slight clarification, please. Are you implying that when Martin Ennals and people like myself set up Amnesty International, we somehow are complicit? Because when I applied to the UN to get access to prisoners in Myanmar, I am telling you, I am not doing it on behalf of the imperial system. So could we have some clarification, please?
Yeah, I do think that. So I do think that the line, that if you check the line, I mean, I don't think, and oftentimes it's maybe not directly, I believe that people working for Amnesty International or Human Rights Watch are sincerely working with people, and also many times and oftentimes the people have also, realistic experiences that are. But I think if we do not connect this organization to the bigger anti-imperialist struggle, how do you explain?
Okay, so I'm gonna keep the discussion again for after lunch, but this was your clarifying question. I think she answered it. So thank you for that. And then there was another hand over here. Yeah.
Well, it's very connected. It's about Human Rights Watch. I'm relying a lot about on their research when doing things for Palestine and other things. And yeah, to just we need sources. We need, and I mean, during the struggle about blackface in the Netherlands, Zwarte Piet, Amnesty was very slow in some parts, but they also definitely were helping. So yeah, but maybe it's already answered. Yeah.
So you had the same question, I understand?
Yeah,
okay.
Maybe I can add something to it. From what I know, there's letters sent also by academics that sometimes Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch are revolving doors, also misused by the CIA. That doesn't mean the whole department. I sometimes view it a little bit like the UN, imperfect institution. Sometimes you have a struggle with people genuinely using it for good, like you had recent reports confirming it's a genocide happening in Gaza, and at the same time some reports are trampling up war drums, like with the invasion of Libya, for instance. There were fake reports about him spreading as Gaddafi Viagra, like the trope around Arab men, to mass rape women, which was a fallacy, but they did report it. So it's used and misused.
Oh.
think what Marjolein van Pagee is clarifying is let's not blindly follow it, but every time look at the geopolitics of it and then sometimes evaluate. And she gave a lot of alternative sources to remain critical and not blindly follow it.
Yeah, maybe what I meant, and that is not just for Amnesty International, so don't feel, or Human Rights Watch, but in general, let's say, we all may think that, we are against oppression, we are pro-human rights, but within the bigger battle, they will cherry-pick cases and they will blow it up, they will not go into the actual source of the problem, which is the United States of America. So yeah, you can then talk to prisoners or to opposition groups or give them a voice, but I think it's more importantly for us from the West, again, to before we take sides with opposition groups, to realize what the game is that they are playing. And they are playing a divide and rule game.
MediaMondo.
MediaMondo is een onafhankelijk platform. We ontvangen geen subsidie, we zijn niet verbonden aan wat voor instantie dan ook. Om ons werk te kunnen doen zijn we dus afhankelijk van individuele sponsoring. Mocht je ons werk willen ondersteunen, we kunnen donaties goed gebruiken.